Lots of videos out there show perfect kills, or they show first kills with lots of screaming on vent. This video is in between. This isn't a 5-minute Malygos kill. It isn't even a perfect Malygos kill. It's a Malygos kill that shows some good details about how to kill the boss, including what not to do. Pull with misdirect and have the tank set up on the opposite side of the raid. Use your totem farm and warlock teleport circles to mark where the raid should stand at the start. He will periodically turn and hit the raid with his Arcane Storm ability. He also casts Arcane Breath repeatedly in front of him, which hits the tank and anyone else unlucky enough to be in front. 30 seconds into the fight, he will create his first power spark. I'll talk more about these later. Shortly after the first spark, he will go into the air and create a vortex, throwing everyone up into the air with him. The raid takes periodic damage and can only use instant or near-instant cast spells. Notice the raid health bars here. You need people topped up before the vortex and getting some heals while they are up there. When you land, it's absolutely critical to know where the raid is going and where the tank is going. Here we set on vent, raid to the totem farm, and the tank knows to point him away from there. One nice thing about sparks is they won't move during vortex. Our druid here is rooting the spark and will now do little other than chain root it. This is because we want to kill all the sparks at once for a huge damage increase. Sparks are stunnable, rootable, and trappable. Here, our Death Knights are using Death Grip to move the spark over to the raid even though it's spawned on one side. Unfortunately, they don't aim it too well. Ideally, the sparks are all right on top of each other. If you want, you can just kill all the sparks as they land. You don't have to do all this death gripping and rooting stuff if you don't want to. If you do, however, it makes the fight a lot shorter. The most common reason to wipe on Phase 1 Malygos? Pulling aggro, either while on the ground or because ranged go over the tank's threat while in the air. The most important thing is that no one ever goes over the tank's threat. You can do a few things to help. You can blow all the sparks plus lust at the end like we do in this video. You can also use the in-game threat reduction tools. But most of all, it's just good tank threat and DPS self-control. Now we're ready to kill the sparks, but since this was our first time trying to stack sparks, we didn't do the best job. See how they aren't all grouped up and how they're dying in different places? That makes it harder to get the full benefit of the multiplicative stacking. Here you can see me moving back and forth trying to find a spot where I can get all 3 sparks, but I couldn't. The problem is the spark buff effect area is far smaller than the graphic effect area. Finally, we get a solid 3rd spark and the DPS increases. At 50% health, he will fly up and talk to you during a brief roleplay phase. Your range can still DPS him, so do so. We take off 25% of his health here while he's chatting us up. If this were a 5-minute kill, he'd be down to 1 hit point now. But it's not, so he isn't. This is Phase 2. Your range should take out the air mobs and your melee the ground mobs. If you have stacked sparks, staying outside of a protective bubble like we're doing here is high DPS, but it's also highly dangerous. Unless you're pushing for a 5-minute kill, it's probably not a good idea. If you are living life dangerously, you can mitigate some of the damage with the DK anti-magic shell, and protection warriors can talent spell reflect so it works for their group. If you want, once the ground mobs are grouped up, your ranged can AE. Here you can see our shadow priests are mind searing, but really overall it's better for the ranged just to stay on the air mobs. Your raid needs to move from bubble to stay safe. The bubbles reduce the incoming damage from the arcane barrages that the air mobs throw. This is a hover disc. You get on it just like you would any normal vehicle, and then you can fly. This is how the melee can help with the air mobs once the ground mobs are dead. You must be under a bubble during his deep breath or in the air on a hover disc. Some guilds have everyone kill the ground mobs first, then the melee hop on hoverboards and go help kill the air mobs. The thing is, there's no reason to do it this way. Melee can hit the ground mobs just as easily as they can hit the air mobs, and those air mobs really can hurt your raid when they're running between bubbles. Welcome to Phase 3. You're arranged to get in a few parting shots here. When you're thrown into the air, make absolutely sure a warlock casts Curse of Elements on him. If you are DPSing in Phase 3, it's very important to clear your target at the start of Phase 3 and then retarget Malygos after you are on your dragon. Otherwise, your shield will not work due to a bug. There are many ways to handle Phase 3. Here is our favorite. We found the best way to do Phase 3 is to group up at head level, have 4 or 5 healers AE healing, and then everyone else DPSs and keeps renew up on themselves. The deaths here are because people aren't keeping their own renew up on themselves, and they either got too close to him or stayed in one of the arcane balls he makes. That's an arcane ball. The raid must rotate around. Both healers and DPS need to keep an eye on their own health and make sure they have enough energy to shield if necessary. Also, remember that you need combo points on your target in order to shield. When you get a message that Malygos is focusing you, you have time to get a combo point or 2 up and shield if necessary, since his cast is 2 seconds long. Here you see, I take his targeted nuke, and without a shield, I don't die. I misread which targeted nuke was on me, and shielded the one afterwards. Whoops! This shows you, however, that as long as you have good AE heals and a renew up on yourself, your DPS can skip their shields if their health is high, and focus on doing more damage. As a DPS, target Malygos and do a cycle of 2 or 3 flame spikes to build combo points, then cast Engulf in Flames and consume those combo points. Finally, cast a single Revivify on yourself, as keeping that stack rolling will keep your health topped off. Engulf in Flames is what deals the real Phase 3 damage, so it's important to consistently DPS and not let your stack drop. Healers target themselves and do a cycle of Revivifies followed by the AE Heal Life Burst to consume those combo points. There's no hard and fast rule about how many combo points you should do before doing a Life Burst, although having a variety in your raid helps to stagger the Life Bursts and keep the healing on the raid consistent. There's one more challenge left, the Loot Chest boss. Remind people they can't just fly away and let it auto-close. That doesn't actually release the chest. You have to click on the close button.